This is totally impromptu this morning. I'm going to sit here. Good morning, my name is James Kemp, but you can call me Jim. So we're getting pretty heavily into production here. An idea that I had is taking fruition, and a lot of good people are volunteering to be a part of it. And that's the key word this morning, is volunteer, because that's what it really boils down to. If you're agreeing to be part of our Lemonade network on several different venues, then at this point you're agreeing to volunteer during this pandemic to create content for the Lemonade network. Now, does that mean that in the future, if we get grants, if we get sponsors and so forth, that there'll be volunteer positions? No. The idea is to eventually work these into positions that at least pay a stipend for that position, for doing that particular body of work, which hopefully you, as an independent contractor, will be providing services to Lemonade Network that are similar to services that you provide to other entities. That makes you an independent contractor, not an employee. Regardless of whether you're an independent contractor or just a plain volunteer, a stipend would be a payment to an independent contractor. Alright, got a lot of things to cover here this morning. And first thing up, well, let's see, I guess we better establish a date. So here we go. Here's the log, okay? See where we were yesterday. See if I accomplished anything yesterday. I really feel like I did. Yesterday was April Fool's Day. You know what? Don't even have an entry for yesterday. So I'm going to put an entry in here for yesterday and kind of briefly discuss the kinds of things that I accomplished yesterday. Yesterday, you know, if you saw the report on YouTube, I was talking about some of the people that I would be asking to be members of the group and so forth, and now I think we've come to the point where we really need to be realistically looking at collaborative teams in the production of content for the network and in production of content for our first film project, which is Veil of Secrecy 2020, Danny Attacks the Virus. And with that, I am proud to announce that Danny will be played by Max Mortar, a local actor here in Salem, Oregon, who has experiences in acting and filmmaking and so forth. And I'm very, very happy that Max has decided to do that. I ordered Max his own green screen yesterday, but there's a problem from the start, and it has to do with the rate at which things can be acquired. We have the same problem as everybody else in the entire world. Amazon won't be able to get a green screen to Max until April 22nd, to 20 days from today. Probably, I would bet that we'll all still be in isolation 20 days from today. We'll be in isolation 30 days from today. But what we're working on is this unique new film genre that I call the isolation film. Yesterday, on the Facebook group for the Lemonade Network, I shared a collaborative effort of musicians, all of whom had the same piece of music in their own homes or wherever they were in isolation, and they recorded themselves playing the same piece of music around the world. And then some angel someplace, sandwiched it all together and mashed up all of the MP4s, terms we need to use these days, all the films that each individual person had made and put it all together into one orchestration, and it is beautiful, and please watch it. Along the same lines, things that I learned yesterday, I watched a YouTube video on hypersensitivity pneumonitis. Hypersensitivity pneumonitis is the reason that I'm isolated here in my apartment and why I have no intention of interacting with anybody for at least until, I may be here 90 days at the rate that we're going. But here's my theory today, and it has to do with my experience back in 2008. Actually started in 2004, and you can read all about it on moldchamps.popspedster.net. I recorded photographs, a journal of my experience with hypersensitivity pneumonitis, which tried to kill me several times. I only had one near-death experience in 2007. I think I wrote about that. But at any rate, Western medicine, on my YouTube network, on Designer 61448, there's a clip there about just go there and check out my library for one thing. That's all stuff that I'd like you to know about, including this video that I'm doing here this morning. But my theory is that Western medicine focuses on disease. Chinese medicine focuses on more of a holistic approach. I've published the results of the autopsies that the Chinese doctors have done on people who died of COVID-19, and you can see that on YouTube. But in my case, I went to the hospital so many times with oxygen levels down in the 70s. I've been put on ventilators and BPAP, CPAP, whatever machines, and finally just put in a coma for 4 days on a ventilator. So, I've had experience with this type of thing. Now, in my case, what caused the hypersensitivity pneumonitis is mold, black mold, and it forms in attics. And you can on YouTube you can see some remediation videos on professionals who are taking care of problems in attics and so forth with mold. This was at a school where I was teaching, and some of the kiddos and even former teachers in that classroom would tell you about the effects of the mold in the classroom. And all because the roof had been leaking for 7 years, and the district didn't have enough money to repair it. And so on warm spring days, when the temperature in the attic got to be above whatever, these molds, a particular type of mold, basidiospores, and there are 2,000 varieties of basidiospores. These basidiospores would spit out real spores, and these spores, in my theory, contained a rocket fuel component called monomethylhydrazine, and my theory is that resulted when the black mold on plywood interacted chemically with the urea formaldehyde binder that binds plywood sheets together, and at some point when they blossom, the spores that they produce contain that rocket fuel component. I breathed in that rocket fuel component, and my lungs reacted to it. And I think that's what's happening right now. I'm no doctor or anything, but to me this looks so familiar to me. People are dying from a respiratory condition that results from a protein entering their bodies. And I think maybe statistically, potentially 20% of the population would react this way. 80% of the population wouldn't react at all. But there are those of us who are genetically predisposed to react to, so that our lungs react to toxins, and that's the key word, toxin. React to toxins by forming fibers, and it's a wonderful thing for lungs to be protective that way. Unfortunately, it also blocks off your oxygen, and your oxygen levels fall and you die, essentially. And I think that's possibly what's happening. At any rate, let's go on with what I really have to talk about today. I have lots of things to talk about, so this might be a long one. But I've already put together a rough draft of the film, Veil of Secrecy 2020. Danny attacks the virus. I'll be putting this on the internet site today. One of the problems I ran into yesterday was in talking to people was, oh, well, I don't do Facebook. Okay, well, there you go. There's one communication format that we can use, and we are using, and we will use it. I don't do Facebook. But you know, that person can browse the internet, and so I'm using popspedster.net as a base for this entire operation, simply because popspedster.net is an established entity that's been around since 2008 with an internet presence. It is a site that's really intended for people with developmental disabilities, special needs, if you will, for teachers and for students, for parents, caregivers, but it's also a place. It's also a legal entity with the federal tax employer's ID number and so forth. So in the future, when you hear Pop Spedster and Company, that is the entity, which is the umbrella, forming the umbrella for this entire collaborative effort. Now, collaboration requires teams, and so I'm putting together teams. I've pretty much, as I discussed yesterday, I've put together a musical team or a music team, which can be added to depending on what the team comes up with in the way of music. We need to have an executive team, which would be composed of myself and announcement. Beverly Wilson of Spotlight Community Theater in Staten, Oregon has agreed to be the assistant director for Veil of Secrecy 2020. I interviewed Beverly on Monday. Is on the Lemonade Network. The channel on Monday is Working from Home. Tuesday is Homeschooling. Wednesday is the Smile channel. Thursday is the Technical channel. Today I'll be putting up some technical stuff. Friday is the Arts. Last week I interviewed Mr. Film Studies guy about Hitchcock's film Rear Window. Saturday is Central, Lemonade Central, just kind of a collection of whatever needs to be picked up during the week. Kind of a, if you will, CBS Sunday morning or whatever, that type of general interest show. So a lot of what we're doing on this film will come under that central category, the Saturday category. Everybody now is, Zoom is the bottom line program for communicating in large groups by internet. And our teams, I would certainly encourage that to be the case there. We are going to need a production team that consists of a special effects team and all of the arts that go along with it, makeup, costuming, the video editing aspect is huge here, because what we're talking about is a collaborative system, a new collaborative system. We're innovating here, folks. This is proprietary stuff, so at some point we don't want to share it with everybody in the world. I know we don't want to share the technique because it's our proprietary information. But in terms of process, again, you know, we need a team that will be able to advise the individual actors who are filming their own sequences with their own cell phones against a green background. And frankly, I think in editing we can probably use a black background, we can probably use a white background, and we can use a blue background, because at least those are the chromas that I use when I edit videos myself. I use Magic's Movie Edit Pro. It's my favorite editing program. I have Pinnacle, and for some reason Pinnacle is just a different, whatever creative side of my brain I use, Pinnacle, I don't relate to Pinnacle, okay? I use it, create some MP4s, that kind of thing. Use their sound effects, I love their sound effects. But at any rate, a team will have to be together to, first of all, advise everybody who's doing their own green screen for a specific scene just exactly where you, in your actions and your lines, are going to register on that green screen, so that that can be mixed with the other people who are in the scene with you, since you won't be meeting those people except in virtual reality. This is a virtual production. And so we need that technical aspect. We have a videographer and an editor, and frankly, we're looking at probably, when we're done, we're probably looking at a 90-minute film, which we'll try to sell to Prime, Amazon Prime, Video, Netflix, YouTube. At any rate, we'll try to make some money at this dang thing. And so one person cannot videotape and edit something this large. That requires a team. So yesterday I talked with my friend George Nixon in Coos Bay, and we're in the process of putting a Coos Bay team together, which I hope includes Mr. Wilson, who is a videographer. He's actually a registered nurse, but his job is that he's a videographer communication specialist for Bay Area Hospital, and puts together all of their instructional videos and so forth. Gene Percy, our main guy right now, when he will be our main guy. Gene owns Pixie Forest Productions in Staten, Oregon. And so that should be a collaborative team. Rachel Grease, I would love to have you involved in this whole process as a videographer and a member of that team. All right, let me share what I've got here. All right, and this will be on, it'll be on http:// Network 2020.popspetster.net. First is a setting and synopsis of plot. The opening action takes place in the storeroom of a community theater. It is late evening, lighting is subdued, the door to a side room is closed. A light can be seen coming from beneath the door. The security guy carries a flashlight and walks toward the door when the scene opens. The scene changes to and essentially, security guy with his flashlight opens the door. Inside this green room, sitting there is the specter, and the specter is the ghost that haunts this particular theater. This all goes back to, just as a storyline basis, goes back to my 1978 film Veil of Secrecy, which you can find on YouTube on my account there. Then, next day, we have an interview. And Danny comes to the scene for the first time, and Danny is a TV reporter for, I believe, station KBUG. And that's Max Mortar. With Max is his cameraman. And I think I have a positive response from Jason Smith. And some of you have already seen Jason's wonderful work dealing with isolation on YouTube. I really encourage you to look at it, because you're looking at a pretty talented guy who obviously not only writes his own content, but films his own content with his cell phone and publishes it on YouTube. So if you look at Jason Smith and if you look at Max Mortar together, the two of them, just the appearance, my first impression is you're looking at the next generation's Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis. There are other teams like that too. Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, same combination, okay? Humorous, the straight guy and the, I don't want to say bungling person, but the comedy element, the guy that is always, straight guy is cool and calm all the time. Danny, cameraman, yeah, needs a lot of help from Danny, but he's also the source of the humor. Two of them team up. They interview the security guard from the night before, and then we get into a plot that takes Danny all over this little town interviewing people until he finally comes to a crap game outside of the haunted theater. Announcements. There'll be a couple of crap players there. Craps, I guess you'd say. And one of them will be played by Matthew Sheldon Morris, another local Salem actor, and by Logan Fisher, another Salem actor. We have this, my friend Ed Schofs is my friend who has this kind of theory that in Salem, Oregon, we're experiencing this theatrical nexus, partly because we're 45 miles from Portland, 12 hours from Los Angeles, 9 hours to San Francisco, that kind of thing. So we have a lot of actors around here, we have a lot of theater around here, and now, of course, some of the shows like Stumptown and Grimm are being filmed in Portland. And talent. We just have so much talent to draw on, but by the same token, I'm involving people from other parts of the country. Back in Illinois, I've asked my friend John Heasley to do he's part of the music team, and I've asked him to do some filming back there, location filming, of places that I plan to use as backdrops for green screen scenes. And one of them is the theater itself. The theater itself back there is the original building. It's still standing there, falling into the ground, but an old opera house. And so I want my crap shooters to be shooting craps. But at any rate, they waylay the camera guy, and Danny decides that he's going to go inside the theater by himself. Well, what's happening inside the theater that he doesn't know about is a zombie wedding, and so we need a lot of people to be zombies in this show. And we need a lot of makeup. I've asked Isaac Joyce Shaw to be the makeup designer. As the designer, he would be supervising all of the zombies who are doing their own tapes or their own videos. They're going to have to do their makeup at home and so forth. But it would all have to be consistent and be part of the gestalt of the entire film. So after the wedding, Danny walks into the main auditorium of the theater, where the wedding's been taking place. Zombies are gone. Danny walks toward the stage, and suddenly from the stage right, the specter appears. And I believe I can announce, this person is a minor, but working with Mom, I'm pretty sure that we're going to be able to get Gwyneth Badillo to play the part of the Spectre. When you see Gwyneth on film, you're going to say, "She reminds me of a young Natalie Wood," and that's exactly what I thought. And she's covered in gauze and ragged prom dress and all that kind of stuff. And so Danny makes a move toward her, and she disappears, and Danny follows her to the cemetery, to a grave where he's got the bright idea. He gets a spade at the hardware store, whatever, and he gets the bright idea to dig down into the grave and try to dig up the specter. But instead he finds this weird Pandora's box. And he opens the Pandora's box. Oh, by the way, the cameraman has accompanied him to the cemetery. So we've got Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, Bob Hope and Bing Crosby at this gravesite digging. And all of a sudden, out of the box comes comes COVID-19 protein. Let's call it what it is. It's a protein. And our camera angle follows the protein up Danny's nose, and suddenly Danny and the cameraman are transfixed into the occupants of this weird little vehicle. And if you say, "Oh, sounds like you're ripping off Fantastic Voyage 1967, yeah, I am. At least the idea, at least the concept. Certainly not the content, because we're not going through the whole damn body, we're just going to the lungs, okay? And so Danny and cameraman are in this wild-ass ride, pardon the expression, going through Danny's lungs, as it turns out. And therefore we need a special effects team like you would not believe. I already know that Gene Percy is totally interested in special effects and is totally capable of producing special effects with the equipment that he has. I would imagine that Steve Wilson is capable along the same lines, and so that collaborative team should be working with the special effects team, creating everything that happens inside Danny's lungs. And if this involves my friend Michelle Isaacson, I kind of included her yesterday. She's an artist doing green screen, where she's created big maybe exercise balls that turn into viruses, and we just have a bunch of them. Some of the extras videotaping with that kind of thing, sandwich it all together, so we've just got this gigantic moving thing throughout Danny's lungs. And it just so happens that Michelle is married to Dr. Drew Isaacson, and I haven't called Dr. Drew, but who do you think might know what things are like and what effects might be like inside human lungs? So I would really like to have Dr. Drew Isaacson on my team. And coincidentally, Dr. Drew is a graduate of Palmer Chiropractic College in Davenport, Iowa, for all of my friends back in Illinois who live within a 60-mile radius of Davenport, including you, John Heasley. At any rate, what else do I have to announce here? Frisbee players. I do not know the name of the young man who played the brother in Pinnacle's production of Yellow. I recall that he's part of the Children's Educational Theater. Just an excellent young actor. I would like him to be one of the Frisbee players that Danny interviews at the beginning. And then we need a female to be another, and I have all kinds of people in mind for that. Danny Quizzatori, played by Max Mortar. Walter Clickspot, played by, hopefully, Jason Smith. Pedestrians. That they will be. I haven't cast those yet, and I think we may audition for those. Those are people that Danny interviews on the street. We have Citizens 1 and 2. Citizen 1, Alice Carlson. I really want Alice Carlson to play one of the citizens, and this can be a character that Alice creates. Alice is the primary person at Dolphin Players in Coos Bay, Oregon. Just such an experienced director, producer, actress, actor. We use non-sexist language here. And then we need to have another citizen character with her, a male. Oh, let's see. I think that might be... I asked Matthew Voisin yesterday if he wanted to be a zombie. I haven't heard back from him. But Matthew is a very talented young actor, and he could be one of the citizens in the scene with Alice. We have the Craps players already announced. And then we have Benny Amato. Benny Amato is the Perry White Superman type TV station manager of the TV station where Danny and Walter work. And my friend and fellow actor George Nixon has agreed to play the part of the station manager, and he's probably also a central touch person at this point in the development of this process and for that team in Coos Bay, Oregon. Zombies require specific costuming to avoid looking like common movie zombies, but still made up to look dead. And these are specific roles in addition to other, you're going to be doing oohs and grunts and groans and screams and so forth. I mean, there's not going to be any, some of it will be impromptu, it won't be scripted in. But for the zombie wedding scene and also for the scene where the zombies attack Danny and eat him alive at the end of this film, we have the piano playing zombie, the groom zombie, the married couple zombies, the groomsman zombie, the hillbilly zombie, the bride zombie, and 3 weird zombies who happen to be in the wedding party and also in the feast in the last scene. And spoiler alert, folks, but here it is. So the zombies eat Danny. Danny turns, however that happens, he turns into a zombie. I don't know how he does it without his body. I guess his bones are still left, but whatever. Last scene is cameraman going to the crypt in the cemetery where all of the zombies have retired for the night or whatever. And we see Danny emerging as a zombie, going closer and closer toward Walter. Walter backing away, running away with his camera. And last scene is Danny in the cemetery, coming toward Walter, because Walter is next. End of film. So there you go, there's the plot. I'm going to stop right here because, quite frankly, that ought to give everybody enough to work on for a while and give somebody an idea of what the hell it is that we're doing. So you have a wonderful day, because I know I will, and I'm going to be busy as you will not believe it. Fran Latin, your interview on Lemonade Smile is coming up. I have a bunch of photographs of you already to put into the interview. I know you're looking for your photographs from past things that you've done. Fran was involved with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and that's something that us Oregonians are very proud of. Things have come out of there that have won Tonys, been made into films. I don't want to go into it. The one thing that they're doing right now that I'm very, very interested in, well, 2 things. Last year they did a production of Hairspray, and in the cast they had a young man with cerebral palsy in a wheelchair as a regular character in the show, and during a dance number, this young man got up and danced. And he tore my heart out. So I'm going to be working on a film next year, several small films next year. I really want him to be in it. But also, as Dr. Douthit told us at a Pinnacle meeting one night, Oregon Shakespeare Festival has I think they got a $5 million grant to take all of Shakespeare's plays and turn them into modern English versions that are accurate and supervised by, this is another collaborative effort, dramaturge, writers, scholars, and so forth. Quite an impressive effort. And so whatever play it is that they turn out first, I just want to see it. I just want to see it. You have a good day, and spread the love around. And if you're tempted to go out and buy a gun, go ahead. It's your right. That's fine. But you got to trust God. God is good. And this is all going to end up being good. Thanks.